60th celebration of this council. And we're just so glad to be with you this evening. We really appreciate you, and we know you could be doing something else like sleeping or something, but you can eat and watch us. So a lot, if you've got your favorite food, then it would make what we say better. We're just going to have a lot of fun this evening talking about how to make your partner feel really loved. Now, you obviously did that when you were courting or dating them, or I believe you wouldn't be married now. But as time goes on and you go through the various stages of marriage, some people say there's six, some people say there's seven stages of marriage. The first being passion, you know, and then some kind of restructuring. But then they talk about the rebellious stage. Reminds me, that song, Bernie, we ain't gonna take it. We ain't gonna take it. Dun, dun, dun,
Whatever the other
dun,
words are.
dun. We ain't gonna take it no more. Well, that's how most people feel when they get to the third stage, okay? He was Mr. Wonderful. Now he's like some kind of monster. I don't know what she would say about him, but you don't seem to get the things you used to get. You don't feel the way you used to feel. And there's just something about him leaving his socks around that just really turns you off. You just, you even start thinking about divorce. But we're going to talk about gender differences, things that typical men and women do. Not everybody, we know about that bell-shaped curve. If you remember the bell-shaped curve, most people, 75% of people, are within two quadrants. Okay, so you are like everybody else, and then there's nothing about you that's like everybody else. You're a unique person. So we want to talk about those people in the middle. Okay. And so we think these things will really help you. We know knowing about one gender difference, the literature says has kept people from going into divorce. I'm Evangelist Dr. Karen Green, and this is District Elder
Vernon Green.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been doing this now. Vern, how long have we been doing this?
I think this is our third or fourth time, I think.
I think it's our fourth time, yeah. And we started out with just really hitting the target. What are the things that keep you, amen, to just keep you from being so irritated with your spouse, or help you get into contempt? Because when you have contempt for somebody, you don't care what they say or what they do. Yeah. And so the way we like to start it off is, honey, you're my uh, you're my no, I can't think of anything. You're my butter in my buttercups.
And you're the chip in my chocolate chip.
Oh. And you're my honey on my honey bun.
And you're the cream in my coffee.
Oh. You're the butter on my popcorn.
You're the honey in my honeycomb.
Oh wow. You're my sun in a sunshiny day.
And you're my moon at night.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway,
okay.
We're just kind of crazy about each other. We've been married now 26 years. Mm-hmm. So we thank God for that. God put us together, and we're a lot alike, right? Mm-hmm. And that means the good things about us and the bad things. But it's always easier to live with somebody who is very similar to you, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
It works. It works.
What do you want to say?
Okay. Well, the things that we want to talk about, last time we met in June, we talked about intimacy. Intimacy what men are looking at as far as intimacy. Today, our topic is what it took to get them is gonna take to keep them. And I think as couples, we did all this, the flowers, the candy. If candy and letters and emails and all the things above. And then when we get married, we find ourselves. Some people find themselves, and it's not majority maybe, that they either they grow apart or they stop doing the things that in that dating. What if it worked at the start? Why not keep it up? If she liked flowers before, if you sent flowers before, why can't you send flowers now? And so what happens? I think the like men, they're hunters, and so after they bag the prey, then they say they got it. Then it's like, well, it's here now. What do I do? And so you have to keep that relationship alive and moving forward.
I can hear somebody saying, well, it costs so much money to send those flower bouquets, but perhaps you could just send single flowers.
Right.
So you got to do something if you're the flower man. And you were the flower man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was it, I think for a while there, every week, because I was in Ohio and he was in Minnesota. And so, yeah, that was really nice. That was really.
And when somebody does something for somebody else, like I was sending the flowers, I think to your job, and all the other women were.
That's being a show off. But go ahead.
Well,
you wanted to impress and make people think you were, Well, why did you send them to my?
Well, because I did. I don't think I had your address. And then I was saying, if I'm sending them, then you're not there. You're not there to receive them. So what are you gonna? What the flowers are gonna do?
It was fine to send them to my job. Yeah,
because
I would get them on Saturday morning. Otherwise, just sitting on my porch.
Right. Okay. So, Karen, we want to go take the point of maybe looking at the differences between men and women.
Right, because there's some things, if you have the skill, love and skill make a masterpiece. And so if you have these skills, you will avoid a lot of arguments. Okay. And this would also help you with your male or female children, depending upon which it is. I had a grant, and I owed to several schools and industries also, and companies. I did a gender project. He said, she said, and other gender differences. So knowing this will help you. And believe it or not, there are communication differences, or how people interpret what you say and your body language. So let's start with one of the, well, most people don't disagree about this difference. That would be our first video A.
Men's brains are very unique. Men's brains are made up of little boxes. And we have a box for everything. We've got a box for the car. We got a box for the money. We got a box for the job. We got a box for you. We got a box for the kids. We got a box for your mother somewhere in the basement. We got boxes everywhere. And the rule is the boxes don't touch. When a man discusses a particular subject, we go to that particular box, we pull that box out, we open the box, we discuss only what is in that box. All right? And then we close the box and put it away, being very, very careful not to touch any other boxes. brains are very, very different from men's brains. Women's brains are made up of a big ball of wire. And everything is connected to everything. The money's connected to the car, and the car's connected to your job, and your kids are connected to your mother, and everything's connected to everything. And it's like... It's like the internet superhighway. Okay? And it's all driven by energy that we call emotion. It's one of the reasons why women tend to remember everything. Because if you take an event and you connect it to an emotion, it burns in your memory and you can remember it forever. The same thing happens for men. It just doesn't happen very often because, quite frankly, we don't care. Women tend to care about everything. And she just loves it. Okay? Now, men, we have a box in our brain that most women are not aware of. This particular box has nothing in it. In fact, we call it the nothing box. And of all the boxes a man has in his brain, the nothing box is our favorite box. If a man has a chance, he'll go to his nothing box every time. That's why a man can do something seemingly completely brain dead for hours on end. You know, like fishing. Now, they've actually measured this. The University of Pennsylvania a couple of years ago did a study and discovered that men have the ability to think about absolutely nothing and still breathe. You know, they connected all the wires and stuff like that and watched the brain activity, then all of a sudden, I think he's dead. Huh? You know, women can't do it. They can't do it. Their minds never stop. And they don't understand the nothing box. And it drives them crazy. Because nothing drives a woman more crazy or makes her feel more irritated than to witness a man doing nothing.
Well, you see, that's one of the things that I think really irritates women, and that's because of our need for communication. I mean, I used to go to bed just to think, you know what I mean? I just love thinking all the time. And my husband would say, I'd say, what are you thinking about? Nothing. What did you dream about? Nothing. Okay. So, but and I think that's what sports is. You watch these football games and other sports, and you get so absorbed in them that it's very cleansing or reviving or something, just to be that in tune with something else other than just everyday life.
Well, there's activity. I mean, it's movement in which men, movement, and they're doing something, and sometimes, like the example what he used, like the fishing, you just sit there. Now, I'm not a fish person, and
we know some women love fishing. Yeah.
But just to sit there and just, and then on
chill,
the boat,
I guess,
on a boat or on the shore, and have the line, and that's it.
That's it. Well, why don't you tell us then what each want in a relationship, men and women?
No, I've looked up some information, and this is under the Lutz.com. And it's in what I wanted to do, speak on, is what it says what a girl wants in a relationship. And this is for men. Guys or brothers need to figure out what a girl wants in a relationship. Basically, it starts when you're dating a young woman. You want to do all that is right things to keep her. So these are the things that a man should know. Uh, a woman, a girl, I'll say
I like
girl,
woman.
a woman look for these things in a relationship. He appreciates you. That's what men need to know. He does by doing romantic things. A woman wants to feel secure and protected, and some of these are self-explanatory. You know, she wants when she wants to know that, hey, if a dog comes, I mean, she may not be afraid of dogs, but that you like, make sure that the dog's not a biting or a growling or whatever thing. And a woman wants a guy to spend time with her. Now these are just general across the board. Some of these aren't really. Generally, these are what women are catering.
What they say they want.
Oh yeah. Share some of her interests. You should share some interests that you have. Like my wife and I like going to museums or going to the antique stores. And when she found out that I like that, she said, like, oh my goodness. She said, oh.
I felt like getting down on my knees in the antique store.
Yeah. And I mean, you've seen something old, and especially with furniture, we both like older furniture as well, Bill.
And I even like primitive antiques. Yeah. So some of you, I mean, you got to kind of like antiques that kind of want your house to look like Little House on the Prairie. But I do personally enjoy that.
And when she says primitive, she means primitive. Like an old wooden stove where you have to put wood on one side of it. Someone who support this is what a man needs to know. Someone who supports her goals, and a guy who makes her laugh. This is what men need to know about a woman. And go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, one evangelist said that, she meets this guy, they're on a plane together, and she was surprised that, they kind of clicked in terms of their likes and dislikes. But what was most important to her was that he could embrace her purpose, because she's a traveling evangelist and now a pastor. And just that those purposes and missions could meld together was so important to her.
And to be desired sexually, and she wants to feel she can trust him.
Right, and that comes a lot of times. Like if you say you're going to be someplace at 6, you're there. You say you're going to call. You call, because I think most women would just dismiss you. And what I hear from a lot of women who perhaps go to dating sites online, is that it just seems like so many people are not real. They just and then don't call. A lot of people prefer calling to texting. You can't really get the emotion and the feeling and feel the passion if somebody is texting you. But I guess it just depends upon how serious you are about somebody, or if you become serious. And we talked to a guy just the other week, and he had lived with a woman for 15 years?
Yeah, total of 15 years.
Right. And so the first 10 they went, or first 5.
First five.
Well, you tell the story.
First 5 years, he in his this is a male. This male, and I think it's a lot of men. He said that the first 5 years, he said, I liked her. He said, I was really in lust. He said, I knew that later on. He said, but I didn't want to get married. I just wanted to live together, be together, and you know,
And it was
has,
so convenient
come in and
because
have sex, and you know,
he worked the first shift, she worked the second shift, and then when she come home, they just bed together, and there were a few arguments,
right.
few complaints.
Yeah,
Uh,
and he said that, well, and when she was at work, I mean, he could be watching his games, sometimes in the evening. So that went on for 5 years. Then she came to him and said, "What's going to happen? This is after 5 years now. What are we going to do?" I think we said I wanted to get married. I think I wanted to get married. So I said, "Well, we just been together for after another 5 years, let's take a look at it, or maybe consider it."
mhm.
So so she she was
She went along with
she went
it.
along with it. So now we're in the 10th year comes. Now listen to this. 10th year comes. She comes and said, "Well, it's another 5. It's 10 years. You said we're gonna consider it getting engaged. Now we're looking at engagement after 10 years." So what he did he? I think he did.
He said, well, he gave her some money and said, well, you go and pick out your engagement ring.
Yeah. So she said, "Here's this everybody." So she went out and picked.
And be careful what you ask for.
And she
If she had asked for marriage,
she would have got.
they would have decided what's shaking here.
Right.
But because she said engagement.
So she said he gave her the money. She went on and picked her ring, and she started showing everybody her engagement ring. And he was like, okay, whatever, okay. And then after during that either the 15th year they were together, she decided that, hey, this is this is it. And he wasn't it. He said to both of us, I wasn't intending to marry her. I didn't want to marry her. And so he had went through some emotional things after he
was bonded to her, but he didn't love her.
Right, he didn't love her. And
the point of this story is, like he gave, as my daughter-in-law likes to say, he gave her a shut mouth ring, and it shut her mouth.
Right.
But the point is, and 2 points we want to make. Number one, God would have it that you would be married, that you would be married and completely should be committed to one another. So it was an easy relationship, but they weren't really committed to one another. And most people who live together before marriage do not end up getting married afterwards. Now, this is the thing you're going to go through. I told you there were a lot of people say there's 6 stages of marriage. Well, she's already gone through 3 or 4 or 5 of them, and they just didn't have that glue. And then, but the wonderful thing he said was that, after maybe it was a year or so.
Oh, yeah, a year or two, something like that.
Yeah, he met someone, and he instantly knew.
And then the interesting thing, 2 women that he knew told him about the same woman, and he said they went together for he said he was after that. He said he had some physical things that happened to him, some physical things that happened to him, and he said he kind of did what he said for a year I didn't want to even deal with the woman, and so these 2 women that he knew, both of them talked about the same person, and so he met her, and it was like
he said he instantly gave her his heart.
Right.
She was instantly in his heart.
Right.
It's such a beautiful expression.
Right.
So most people know,
right.
Don't you think?
Right. And he said he within 6 months he wanted to get married, and she was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. We just known 6 months. He said, okay. He waited, and within a year they got married, and they've been married now for over 25 years. So there you go. So, and that's one thing about a man. If a man if that's what he wants to do, he's gonna do it. There's no and ifs and buts. Wild horses can't drive him away. And even though you want to drive him away, if he wants that or wants you, he's going to go after it.
And men like to make that decision. They like to do the quote unquote. Well, I hate that word because And I don't mean it in a demeaning way, but you know, if he wants something, he's going to figure out how to get it, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the next one is she wants to nurture. She wants to nurture and take care of you. That's what a woman wants to do. A spontaneity. A woman wants a guy with a life of his own, and someone who thinks of her, And this is the other one. Another one is a big one is honesty, and then in loyalty, and compassion and kindness. She wants a best, and she wants a best friend, and she wants, and this is the key one, commitment. Commitment. And she wants a good provider, a man who takes care of his health and appearance, a man who accepts her as she is, and a man who can take control of the relationship. And I'm gonna stop there. That's would you have any questions or comments?
Did you have some things that you could quickly say that a man is wanting?
Okay, right, I'll do that. What a man wants in a relationship.
And there are many men who want to be married who will just tell you that they want to be married. You know,
Right.
And generally those people get married pretty soon. I know when I was wanting to be remarried, and I would talk to several guys, and really I helped other people get married because I was telling this one guy about a friend of mine who had come to visit from Atlanta, and he was just, oh gosh, he was just so, I don't know, enthralled. You could just, it was just a Holy Ghost impartation that he had to meet this woman. He had originally dated me, but you know, we just, you know, wasn't anything there. But he was a nice guy, and so he asked for her telephone number. He called her, and they were married before we were married. I mean, that was just God in action. So there are people, you know, the Lord told me, you know, you don't have to worry. You know, I've got, you just be, and I'll get the men to you. You know what I mean? I got plenty of men, 5,000, 7,000, whatever. Don't worry about that. I partnered with God. I said, let's, you know, I want you to help me to bring someone to me, and he can do that to you. But that's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show and a whole nother process. But I'm just telling you that you don't have to go stalking somebody. Most men don't like that, do they?
No. I personally, you know, I want to be the I'm using an aggressor, and most men are that way. You know, they don't want to be. Now there is an exception to it. And now it seems like we have a lot of men that want to be catered to, and everybody do. She does everything for him, and most men want to hunt. Most men. No, these are some things that women need to know about men. The other one was what men need to know about women. Now this is what women need to know about men. Attraction. What the attraction there, that visual in emotional intimacy.
What does that mean?
Most men, a lot of men don't show their feelings, but they still want to be, you know, mostly connected to you. You know, if I'm hurting, or if you're hurting, or if I'm going through some things, I want to maybe talk to you. You know, some a lot of men don't talk, but we are emotional as well.
Right.
Respect. Most men said, there's something like Rodney Dangerfield. Respect. Men want respect. I'm not saying women don't. Praise.
He likes to be praised for the things that he
He
does,
does,
and
right.
his cleverness.
Or he's doing something for you, or for somebody, for the family, or something like that. Acceptance. They want to feel accepted. as far as let me see the best way I can say that I know there are singles, but when you marry somebody, that you're accepted to, you don't want it to take care, and it's a physical connection.
Well, you want the person that you want to marry or you're dating to think you're great.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then romance. Some people think men don't want romance, but they do. You can be romantic. Security. I want to read this. Feeling certain in a relationship is always incredibly important to the parties that are involved. What makes a person feel secure about their relationship? Having a partner who is reliable and honest can certainly help. Guys are no different than girls when it comes to wanting security in a relationship. Mm-hmm. Emotional immaturity. What I like to say about that, you want somebody that is emotional, connected to you, an adult to an adult. This is the way I put it. An adult to an adult, not an adult to a child, mm-hmm. And then also communication. I'll stop there.
Okay, all right. Well, we're gonna listen to our second video, and it's really going to amplify some of the more important gender differences. Okay, now like we say, this is not everybody, but it's a whole lot of people. About 75% of people have these preferences or very differences in behavior. And as I say, one of them has led many people to want to get a divorce. And we'll talk about that after you watch this video. I hope you got a pen and paper with you, but if you don't, then you can come back and watch this again.
Tom and Mary are in a relationship. Tom says, "No matter what I do, it's not enough to make her happy." Mary says, "He doesn't listen, he doesn't care about me, and is no longer romantic." They are tired of dealing with the same issues over and over again. There is nothing wrong with them. They just simply fail to understand how men and women are different. Like Tom and Mary, many couples fall into such patterns that turn a loving relationship to a failed one. Dr. Gary says that men and women are different by nature. They think differently, they communicate differently, they have different emotional needs. If you are one of the many who finds it difficult to read the opposite gender, then this book, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, will be a great help to you. Dr. Gary says that for couples to get along, they need to stop expecting the other to be the same and understand each other instead. Once you know how you and your partner differ, you'll see each other from a new perspective. This knowledge will improve your relationship and resolve so many of the problems that arise from simple misunderstandings. Let's look at more closely to some of these differences between men and women. Men go to their cave and women talk. When women have bad problems or feelings, their instinct is to talk about them. Men, however, remain quiet and want to be alone. Talking helps the woman, so she assumes that the man will also want to talk, but he doesn't, and he becomes frustrated when she tries to make him talk. For example, John is a man and likes to solve his problems independently and rarely asks for help. So when he comes home with problems in his mind after a hard day at work, he wants to do some activity alone that allows him to kill time, like watching a game on TV. This allows him to think about other things until the problems are no longer in his mind. Then he will be more willing to speak and offer emotional support to Mary. But when Mary gets home with a problem, she wants to talk to John about it and get them out of her mind. As she talks about her problems out loud, she can process her feelings and get them off her chest. So they will not bother her anymore. Then she will feel better and can take care of John and his needs. Women want to be listened to and men offer solutions. When a woman talks about a problem, she usually wants to be listened to. But men usually offer solutions at these times because men talk about a problem only when they look for a solution. So they assume that's what the woman wants to hear. Mary comes home from work, exhausted, talking about her day. Frustrated and upset, she tells John that she is getting overwhelmed at work. As a man, John thinks that an appropriate way to show love and consideration is to offer solutions to Mary. He tells her to resign from work and look for a new one, which she likes. Mary is sad because John doesn't understand her. She doesn't want him to solve her problems. She just needed him to listen to her and acknowledge her feelings so she would feel better. A woman is rarely looking for solutions when she tells someone about her problems. Just listen and care for her by validating what she feels. If she wants a solution, she'll ask for one. Men need to be trusted and appreciated, and women offer advice. If you think you are constantly upsetting your partner when you try to help him, then you may need to change your approach. John is setting up a bookcase for Mary. Mary arrives at home and realizes that he is having difficulty building the shelf. She suggests that he call his brother for help. As a woman, Mary believes that she is showing her love and consideration for John when she offers her counsel. But John thinks his interference happens because she doesn't trust his abilities. He wants Mary to believe that he can finish the job and that she appreciates his efforts. Advising a man is not always the best way to care about him. Instead, show that you value his effort by letting him handle the situation himself and then thank him for what he did. It is instinctive for a woman to offer advice when she sees someone in trouble, but men do not want advice unless they ask for it. Men are like rubber bands. John and Mary are becoming very close and growing in intimacy, and Mary is very happy. But suddenly, John walks away and doesn't want to share his feelings and spend time together or work on their relationship. Mary is frightened and feels that she has done something wrong to push him away. Her first instinct is to run after him and force him to talk about what's going on. But this is a bad idea. John is a man, and he is simply acting naturally. As a man becomes more intimate and closer to a woman, he reaches a point where he is suddenly terrified. He feels that he is losing his independence and needs to move away. They need support at these times, and the woman can support him by giving space and not judging his need for independence. Even though this is totally normal, but it can leave women feeling hurt or confused. So in such times, the man can reassure the woman.
I'm going to make a bold statement and say that doing a TEDx talk is going to be the most transformative and uplifting experience of your life.
That he will return. Women are like waves. Some men describe female emotions as a roller coaster because they can suddenly swing. Overall, Mary is a happy woman who cares about everyone around her. But John noticed that sometimes Mary is deeply sad, and he doesn't understand why. She becomes sad and nervous for no reason and doesn't care for others as before. John thought maybe he had done something to annoy Mary, but he doesn't know where the problems come from. Contrary to what John believes, this is normal behavior, and he probably hasn't done anything wrong with Mary. Mary is a woman, and to express herself and release her negative feelings, she may occasionally feel sad and need to talk about her emotions. All she needs at this time is to hear that it's okay to feel sad. If Mary wants to make this process easier for John, she can reassure him that it is not his fault. And if John is in his cave and finds it difficult to deal with her behavior, Mary can look for a friend to talk about her feelings. Men and women communicate differently. This is the root of arguments in a relationship. Men are literal and direct when they speak, and women often unknowingly start arguments by not being direct when sharing feelings. For example, Mary says, "We never go out." John's first instinct is to feel guilty and correct her by reminding her the last time they actually did go out. But the word never is an exaggeration that Mary used to express how she feels. She probably didn't want to accuse him of anything. Translated, this means, "I'd like to go out with you because we have fun together. Can you take me out?" Understanding what Mary meant could prevent John from reacting defensively and invalidating her feelings. Failing to communicate directly and listening to understand the feelings can create big arguments from a small misunderstanding. Men and women have a different scoring point system. When it comes to giving, men value results while women value the thoughts that come with it. So women appreciate lots of little gifts while men tend to value the big gifts more. For example, if Tom gives roses to Mary for a whole month every day, he may get 30 points from her, because for Mary, each rose will score 1 point, showing that Tom was thinking about her. But Tom may think that if he plans a big trip, he doesn't need to give a rose every day, because in his mind, a big trip will definitely score more than 30 points. But for Mary, it's probably just 2 or 3 points. So Dr. Gary encourages men to not ignore small and easy things that can make a big difference. Also, women should appreciate men giving. Otherwise, he will completely stop giving if he doesn't feel appreciated. With man giving and her appreciating, both will gain. Men and women are motivated by different things. Men and women are guided by different things. Men are mainly motivated when they feel they are useful. John wants to know that Mary needs what he can give and that she values it. So if Mary doesn't express her gratitude for the things he does to please her, he will simply stop doing them. Women are motivated when they feel loved. Mary needs to know that she is loved and respected by John. So when Mary needs something, it is important that she feels confident that John will take care of it. The advice given by Dr. Gary in this book goes completely against the popular social movements that says men and women are pretty much the same. I did some research on this book and it seems a lot of people are criticizing it. They call it pop psychology, saying it is not scientific, or it is sexism because it asks women to do more of the adjustments. I personally found this book very helpful in understanding the opposite sex, and I'd be happy to see what you guys think about it. I spend a lot of time making this video, so if you are learning something from it, make sure to like this video. It helps a lot.
Trying to do here is to fill the scripture in Ephesians 4:32. And be kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God for Christ's sake hath forgiven you. You know, the thing about men going into their cave, when men are under stress, they need to process something, they just want to go away, be alone, go to the garage, go to their man cave, sit in the car, sit in their favorite chair. You know, you've seen several, used to be sitcoms where when daddy came home from work, you know, the kids couldn't talk to him or play with him or interrupt him. They just had to let him go and sit in his chair. And so you say, well, things have changed. Mama's working too, but mama doesn't seem to be that way. She seems to want to engage all the time. And so many people have just, you know, the woman keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. Oh, you got to talk. You got to talk. Well, see, she does that with her girlfriends, and that works because women, when they are emotionally upset, have problems, often go into what they call her well. And if you can see a well, let's say a well in the backyard or something, well, if you know you fall in the well, you don't typically just go to the well, you know, and you want somebody to pull you out, to help you to process, yeah, not to solve drawing water, right, You don't want somebody to problem solve. You usually want somebody to listen. That's a big difference, because a lot of men, if you tell them your problem, I mean, they problem solve for you, when really you just wanted somebody um, to listen. And so that's one of the things women say. He just, oh, he's not, he doesn't pay any attention to my emotions. He's not concerned about me. One of the main things that women say about men, they don't like about men, is that he doesn't listen. He does listen. But, as we talked about, he's got boxes. And, it just depends on the time of day and what's going on. And I think really that's an effective thing. Just let him alone, let him process. But if you take it personally that he's rejecting you, that could cause a lot of problems. And people have said that they've gotten into so many arguments because of that, because of his wanting to be in the cave. But you can choose to just understand that. You can't make anybody do something that they don't want to do. I mean, we are two different sexes, uh, male and female. He made them, so we're not just alike. And if we were just alike, I guess it would get kind of
Boring.
yes, boring. So that thing for closeness, and even those of you who are married, you may notice this about um, your husband. Like if you and the kids are you going to a picnic, or just a family picnic, and if he's been with you all day, hey, he's had it. He's spent emotionally. He's going to want to do something different in the evening. I mean, I've even seen that in you, Vern. It's like women want, more closeness. Some of them do. I do. And it's like, no, I just got to readjust my metabolism, my emotions, my brain, whatever. I'm talking about men. So that's something that we'll give them. You know what I mean? Because we want to be tenderhearted and kind to one another. And you really can't change anybody. The person would have to want to change themselves.
Right.
And it's our hope that couples would sit down and talk about these differences and talk about how you want to be treated, which segues us into the 5
Love languages.
yes.
And it was by Gary Chapman, the 5 languages. I hope I recommend you as a couple, even as a single person, to even read this book by Gary Chapman, the 5 love languages, and they are number 1. Well, there's not 1, 2, or 3, whatever, but it's words of affirmation, any spoken or written words that conform, support, uplift, and emphasize with another person in a positive manner.
Now, what these are is what things you can do, or what things are necessary for someone to feel love, to know that you love them.
Because men and women, well, not men and women, but people speak. When we talk about men and women, with husband and wives, there's a love language, and if you've got to know what their love language is in order to get along and be the best that you can be. Another one was quality time. Your partner undivided attention, this time that is set aside for paying full and undivided attention to the person or matter at hand. It could be a weekly date night, turning off the phone, a hobby together, or maybe a road trip together, and communicating communicating your need. Excuse me. Number 3.
Well, if I could say something about this, a lot of women would really like to be very financially secure, and in days gone by, physicians had their own practice.
Right.
And it just depends upon what kind of doctor it was. But if quality time is yours, and let's say you're married to a neurosurgeon, well, honey, you can just forget it. because he's going to be home late at night. And so that's something you really need to think about when you think about who you want to marry. You know, it's great. Maybe you have a lot of hobbies, things that you can do. And many marriages survive when they're just two ships passing in the night. You know, I don't know. So that's some people's style, you know. Perhaps they pray for one another in the morning. They connect in the evening. But his time and your time, and that also goes into men helping women with the household duties. I mean, you know, if you're getting up at 5 o'clock, making breakfast for the kids, doing this and that, and then you know you don't even get to sit down to 7 or 8. You know, it's time to negotiate and come up with some compromises.
And one key thing is undivided attention. You're not doing 2 or 3 things at the time somebody's
Okay.
talking to you. You've got to
Okay, that's more special,
right.
but you at least need the time together.
Yeah,
Okay.
quality time.
Mhm.
Receiving gifts, you feel love from all of the small presents that your partner gets you. A date gift, flowers, or other type of gifts. You know, these are languages that your partner. This is the language that they speak. Acts of service. The physical expression of a thoughtful gesture. An act of service is about someone going out of their way to meaningfully help and support the other person. Acts of service. Physical touch, expressing and receiving affection through touch, physical closeness, and other forms of physical connection. Kissing, hugging, holding, hands, and sex are all ways of showing love through the point of physical touch. And also, there was percentages that I look at. Words of affection, that was 23% in a relation. 23% of this percent. Quality of time, 20%. Receiving gifts was 18%. Acts of service was 20%, and physical touch was just 19%. It basically gave a percentage of
all couples
of these different groups.
So which one is the one people most prefer?
The one is most is words of affection. You know, basically, I mean, how we're speaking to one another. I mean, you know, they say that it's, I don't know, it's 7-1. With one bad word, you gotta follow up with
Or
7
criticism. Well, I want to say criticism. Very negative expression.
If you do one,
put down.
you gotta have at least 7 positives, which is that is really, so it shows you how a negative word or putting somebody down, you know, pushing them to the side and thinking they're nothing is really damaging. So.
And people like to be praised.
Right.
And if you're, I guess, very introverted, well, you know, you need to get more and more into it, telling people maybe how you feel. Now, I've known some people who've been married for years, and they say, well, I can just look on his face. Well, that's an accommodation that you've made, and couples make accommodations.
But if, I mean, you can look at somebody, it may not be accurate, and they may be just okay.
What are you saying?
Like you said, you can look at it and see if they're bothered with something. That's what you just said.
Right, or that they're very happy with you, or but they don't verbalize it. Or you've heard, now, Lord help us if this happens. Couples go to therapy, and the woman says, you know, he never praises me. He never tells me he loves me. And, you know, the old joke goes that the guy says, well, I told you that I loved you on our wedding day, you know, 30 years ago. I mean, get with it, you know? So, but I would dare say it would be hard for a woman to marry somebody who had that problem, unless the guy just turned it on to get her. You know what I mean? That's so dishonest.
Yeah, it is dishonest, and it's like, hey, that's really control. I mean, that's a lot of control.
Controlling.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a lot of control. Like, hey, I mean, somebody be get talking and engaging with you, and then you get married, and like, I'm just like cold turkey. That is, I think there's some.
Well, I knew a guy, and I was a therapist for 30 years or something. So, I'm used to people coming and telling me what doesn't work. And a typical thing with guys is that she pretended to like hunting
Mm.
and going fishing when we were dating. And I so enjoyed her company. And it's just what, and then after we get married, it's like, no, honey, I don't really want to go do the fishing.
I just did that, just to,
Well,
appease you.
she didn't say that, but she did.
Yeah. Yeah. And you should, as matter of fact, in the things that we've talked about, you need to be honest with one another. Why to do that and then get married and then you're deceiving the person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I may maybe kind of sound kind of crude, but you should be honest. If you don't like something, matter of fact, my wife and I, because she lived in Ohio, and I think you might have heard this story before. And I lived in Minnesota, and so we had to communicate. We had to talk on the phone. We had, at that time wasn't any too much texting or anything like that. I don't think they had that during that time anyway. But we are on the phone, and we talk. Communication. You've got to communicate and talk. And we've talked about from I'll say from A to Z. And if you're in a relationship, you need to talk about A to Z. And hey, what dislikes, likes, what would you have a problem with, or things like that? Why not be open and honest?
There's some very good books by what's his name?
What's that?
Gottman.
Yeah.
What's his first name?
I can't remember his first name.
But the point about it is that he and his wife have several books that will mention things that you might do to bring out communication. And then there are games that you can buy. This is called 101 Conversation Starters for Couples. Many things that just when you're sitting at home, that would engender you to each other and let you know what's going on in each other's lives. Here's one. What was something you really wanted but were not allowed to own as a child or teen? That would be very important to know.
Yeah.
Especially if you're talking to Michael Jackson, give you some real input. Into where his heart was, and to a lot of things, people. Let's see, what are two things that happened today, and how did you feel about them? Well, this would be advantageous to a woman because, she wants to share her world with you, and to a man because then it helps you help her feel loved. We're going to look at our last video clip about 5 love languages. You can get this book. You can take this quiz we'll talk about later. And, maybe you're giving your spouse the wrong thing. And things could change magically for you.
What's going on, guys? Today's video is going to be on the book, The 5 Love Languages, The Secrets to Love That Last by Dr. Gary Chapman. So have you ever been in one of those relationships where you think you're doing everything you can to please your partner, but they're still feeling frustrated and unloved? You're giving them compliments. You work hard all day to bring home the bacon and pay the bills. You give them gifts, and you even do some chores around the house, but they're still feeling unloved. What more do they want, right? It's incredibly frustrating and annoying. Well, the reason why they aren't feeling loved, in short, is that you're not speaking their love language. The premise of the book is that people don't give and receive love in the same way. Most of us think that the way we want to be loved is how others want to be loved as well. But this is not the case. There are, in fact, 5 love languages. This is huge because if you're not speaking the same language as your partner, then you could be missing the mark completely and not even know it. It's basically the equivalent of a British guy trying to talk to a Chinese guy. It's not going to go well because they're simply not going to understand each other. If you're going to have a strong relationship, you have to know how you and your partner both give and receive love. The 5 love languages are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Let's go through each one a little deeper. Words of affirmation. Do you like hearing I love you or compliments or meaningful words above all else? Are insults especially detrimental to your relationship? If so, then this is probably your love language. If you discover that this is your partner's love language, make sure you give them genuine compliments and tell them you appreciate them often. The second love language is quality time. Do you value full and undivided attention above all else? One-on-one time with the TV off, the cell phone put away, and no distraction is what makes this type of person feel loved the most. Canceled or postponed dates and failure to listen are especially hurtful to this type. If this is your partner's love language, learn to listen better, make eye contact more, and spend more time with them instead of at the office or glued to your cell phone. Ask them what they'd like to do with you, and then schedule a date to do it. Don't assume what they'd like to do with you. Ask. The third love language is receiving gifts. Sure, we all like getting gifts, but this type of person loves receiving gifts above all else. Gifts to this type of person mean everything because it shows the love, thought, and effort that went into the gift. I'm not talking about materialistic or the cost of the object, but the thought behind it. Missed birthdays, anniversaries, and thoughtless gifts tear this type of person apart. The cost doesn't matter, it's the thought. It can be as simple as a card or some picked flowers or a note saying that you love their eyes. The fourth language is acts of service. Chores around the house or errands that ease the burden of responsibility are the loving characteristics of this love language. This can be as simple as taking out the trash, paying the bills, doing the dishes, picking up the kids from school, and so on. Broken commitments and laziness can make this type feel unloved. And lastly, physical touch. This doesn't necessarily mean sex. If hugs, cuddling, holding hands, and thoughtful touches are the most important thing to you, then this could be your love language. If their physical presence is crucial to you, then this could be an indicator as well. Any kind of neglect or abuse would destroy this type of person and their relationship. So which one do you most strongly identify with? Keep in mind, you should only have one primary love language. Sure, we may like all those things, but one of them should resonate with you the most. Really think about each one and imagine your partner doing each one in turn and see how you feel. If you're still having a hard time, let's look at a couple ways to figure out your love language. First, examine your childhood. How did your parents express their love to you? What made you feel loved? That may have translated to how you now express and receive it. Another way is to ask, what's your first instinct when you want to show someone you love them? Trust your instinct. And the third way is to look at how you've been hurt deeply in the past. What hurt the most? Exploring that can help shed light on what your love language is. If you still don't know, go take the quiz over at 5lovelanguages.com. Now that you know your love language, think about these love languages from your partner's perspective. Can you identify their love language? I highly suggest you ask them to take the quiz instead of assuming what it is. Remember, what we think is an act of love may not be seen that way by your wife, your husband, or your partner. It really is vital that we learn and understand their love language if we want to make them feel loved. So, find your partner's love language and speak it. Do something special once a week to fill up what Dr. Chapman calls their love tank. Your love tank is like the gas tank in a car. You want to fill it up and keep it full. When your tank is full, your love life will be at its best, and a full tank can keep you going through trying times and relationship difficulties. If you're not consistently filling up the tank, you'll be running on fumes and eventually you'll burn out. Now, if your relationship's already running on fumes, then it'll take a while for the love tank to get full, so keep at it. Keep speaking their love language, and over time, your relationship will start going in the right direction. And another big takeaway from the book, Dr. Chapman explains that love is a choice. It's something that you can control. It's a feeling, and even if you lose some of those feelings over the course of a marriage or any other long-term relationship, you can choose to do the actions first, and the feelings of love will follow. It sounds a little counterintuitive, but it works. So that's it, guys. Quick recap. First, you need to find out what your own love language is. Could be words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, or physical touch. And then find out what your partner's love language is. Don't assume what it is. Talk to them about it. Then make a commitment to do something special each week, something that ties into their primary love language. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And feel free to check out some of my other videos.
Okay, I think that's just wonderful. Find out what your partner's love language is. And also, when you recognize your own, then like everybody's not supposed to just know that.
Right.
There are also books about children's love languages. Various a child, teenager, what else, and that is just really helpful. But if you go to fivelovelanguages.com, and we encourage you to do that, these are some of the questions they'll ask you. There are 30 questions, and then you will score this or add up the scores, and that will tell you um, where you stand in terms of the five. Um, One of them, now they're different for wives and for husbands. Um, I would love for my husband to bring me a special gift, no occasion needed. I enjoy long trips with my husband. So you see, they're kind of obvious where they fit. Um, I wish my husband would not only say nice things to me, but do nice things for me. Now, what are some of the
For the
questions for
husband,
men?
number one, I wish my wife would send me a love note or text or email for no special reason, and I would like more hugs from my wife. One was receiving special gifts from my wife makes me happy. I wish she would do it more. One of my favorite things is traveling with my wife. Another one, I would love to hear more praise from my wife. It means a lot to me when my wife gives me gifts I really like. So so you can go to the website that my wife just mentioned, and you as a husband fill it out and see to know what's your love language, and then also your wife would fill that out. And I think it'd be good for even this would even be good for a single person. I think. What do you think?
Right,
Yeah,
to know.
to know what personally what your love language what your love language is.
And
That's
then
what.
you might discuss this with somebody
Yeah.
if you're dating them and just see what they think. I know a guy who said uh, he and the girl that he had been dating um, talked about the five love languages, and he just said, "Nah, I ain't doing all that." Or you heard guys
Wow.
talk about, well, right. And so you might as well come to the front
Right.
right now. I'm just not willing to invest that in
Yeah.
that person. So she was not the person in his heart. And people talk about people, oh, you're high maintenance. Well, when a guy tells you you're high maintenance, hello, that tells you that over the long haul you're not going to get something. And if your husband would say that to you, then you say, well, honey, um, let's talk about this. I like the fact that he said, what is your main
Right.
love
Love
language?
language.
So at least if you get that one, you'll be happy. And like they say, if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy. Okay, okay. Well, Vern,
Yeah. Anything else, Karen? Elaine?
just going to ask you that.
Yeah. Well, here's a point. In dealing with the love languages, I can't stress it enough that we as men, we kind of, when it's something really kind of, uh, should I say, emotional, we kind of back off of it. But I believe, and I've got to do this, doing it myself. And that was as I was reading, as you read through, you're like, well, I'm not really like that. I'm really like that. But it says you need to kind of stop, think, and I would invite you to look over it, over the 30 questions, and then maybe put it away, and then maybe a day or two, then
Oh,
do it.
okay.
Because when you look at it, because when I looked at it, like, I'm not really like that. I might, so, but so look at it and be open and honest. Be open and honest about your love language, your personal profile. Anything else?
The last thing I would like to say is that couples should pray together. And I mean, it's just tremendous because the Lord will work in you to give them a word of wisdom, a word of knowledge, something that, some confirmation in terms of what you're doing. Uh, and also their love for you. I mean, that's just the kind of closeness. Now, I don't mean something to replace your regular prayer time. Um, we got a whole lot of preachers and missionaries in this uh, council, and so no, not to replace that time,
Right.
your secret closet time with the Lord, but just every day. Like, it could be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, might be longer, that you would pray and then I would pray, or vice versa. The old saying, the couple that prays together stays together.
Yeah.
We got to stay on this track with the Lord, and especially these are such trying times. We need each other. You as a couple need each other more than ever.
And I was talking to a young man this week, and he was saying that that relationship, and he was mentioning, we had mentioned about men, but that we need to have a relationship and to talk and to converse with one another, so we can. So if I don't know what you're feeling, what you're thinking, how can I either help, or how can I even listen? If you don't open up, and sometimes we don't open up with one another, and the key word now is transparent, and and you have to be I encourage you, have to be in a safe situation, because sometimes people don't take that information, or they take that information and just like shoot it out. But you don't do that. You don't do that. But if it's a relationship, and if it's a tight relationship, you have to be open and honest, and free to talk about it.
Right. And also, um, you may talk to your girlfriend about things that you don't talk to your husband. I mean, some of the stuff your husband's just not really interested in. And I always tell people, well, to some people, it's
True.
just like, what can I say, like a laundry basket, they get married and they think I've got to tell my husband everything. I got to tell him about every failed relationship. I got to tell him about all the abuse. I mean, you're not hiding it, but my Lord, you don't want to be in bed with your husband and he's thinking about you and somebody else or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So there are limits, but we should live in a now time, and you should be having a now relationship.
Right.
Amen. You can't go forward looking backwards. And so we just hope you enjoyed this evening. What we're trying to do is help you keep the honey on the moon. One of my pastors used to say, you have a honeymoon. Well, honey, don't end the honeymoon. You don't have to do that. You can have some honeymoon experiences. Your love can grow stronger, and just become more beautiful. Like they say, it's you and me, babe.
Right. And the key thing of this auxiliary is for for marriages to last and be successful, and hold on, hang on, and keep on. As the old expression by a football coach said, that if you got to hang in there, and if you got to pull yourself up, tie another knot, and keep on hanging in there. And it's a love relationship, LOVE, as the scripture says, God is love. If God is love, then the love of God should be in us toward one another. I love her, and I pray and I believe that she loves me. So,
And if we can help you further, just let us know.
yeah.
Amen. God bless. Let's have an ending prayer.
Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the day. We thank you for this opportunity. We thank you for this auxiliary. Lord, that we've said something to help marriages, help the wife that is just maybe at their wits' end, or even a husband that's at their wits' end, that Lord, that they need to open up and begin to understand one another's love language. And after we know one another's love language, then we can have a better and joyful life. We just thank you for all the children of God, those that aren't connected to the church right now. We ask for to bless them and keep them. We just thank you, Lord, for marriage relationships. We thank you for being successful.
Amen.
And give you praise in Jesus' name.
Amen. God
Amen.
created them. He loved them.
Amen.
Amen. Sometimes it feels like you're just like a fingernail file you're going through, but you know you're going to come forth, right?
Right.
You've got to come forth as pure gold. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to our wonderful tech person today.
Yeah. And thank you, and thank the MWDDC, our bishop, our district elders, and our families.
And encourage your friends. Share this, as they always say. Push like and share.
Yeah.
All right.
I know.
See you next time.